We're down to standing reports, and we have half an hour left, so I was going to give my standing report to update you on some things. So first off was, so standing reports, my report. The crime-free multi-unit housing proposal of last month. As per motion, I drafted a letter to City Council. I think I randomly sent a draft version about a few of you to get comments, but very carefully a sub-quorum that nobody knew who it was, but I got a few comments back, and then from that I wrote the letter to City Council. It was well received. I went to the Rules Committee, didn't say anything specifically, but the letter, we said it's an important issue, it should be publicly heard, but it would be better for the Housing and Community Development Commission to take the lead. And the chair of that commission was there, and so we had a good exchange of conversations afterwards. And then I went to their meeting and offered support. I gave them links. I also talked to the deputy director of the housing department, gave them links to our work that we did on the drone policy, and said that you should have a comparable type of outreach, and offered to give them some support if they needed it, and said that a number of us would probably be interested in going to some of the committees just to talk on our own as individuals, but that it was best for their department to handle it. So we passed it off, and they are going to take the lead on it, and hopefully we'll hold some number of public outreach meetings, because this can be a useful policy, but the devil's in the details, and if it's not done right, it can have all sorts of implications that are undesired. So that did the handoff on that. Second point, the city planning department routinely holds roundtable discussions in the mornings, and I went to one of them. It's a developers roundtable, and at one of the ones that I went to, the city introduced a consulting firm that they hired called Management Partners, which is going to review the city's building permits and the fee structures and so forth. And then they talked about how they're going to be meeting with all the stakeholders, developers, Chamber of Commerce, trade industry, and the city council. And I said, well, how about the public? Aren't we kind of a stakeholder too? I mean, it affects homeowner projects, but also in the community if the policies don't properly respect the parks ordinances or the parent ordinances or the schools. So, I mean, we should be involved with the policy also. And then I said, well, Neighborhoods Commission is a way to reach out to the community. So I kind of volunteered us that if they get this information to us, that we would distribute it to the public and offer to forward feedback or direct feedback to the ordinance. So anyhow, I just offered us as a conduit for this thing. So if you get an email forwarded from this, that's what that's about. Golf courses. The city auditor reviewed golf courses and says that 2 out of 3 of them are losing money, and that became a discussion. I went to the Parks Commission meeting October 7th and spoke as an individual, and said that Los Lacos was a city park before it became a golf course, so you can't do anything with that. And I reminded them that the Neighborhoods Commission reviewed the Rancho del Pueblo golf course in 2012. And so I dug up our notes and minutes, our letters from that, and forwarded it to the Parks Department staff so that they could have that information. And I also wrote a letter to the City Council on my own, reminding them that the Neighborhoods Commission had reviewed this thing back in 2012. And I understand that they voted it last night at 11:30 at night. It was a very long meeting that went on, but I think they voted to continue studying it, but there's no real no real decision to sell off the park, but they might repurpose part of Rancho del Pueblo to be soccer, for example. But the original thought of selling it off for land, for development, I think has been removed from the table. It's still a process that is ongoing, so we'll give you updates on that as it goes on. I gave Michelle the copy of the draft version of that letter to the City Council from 2012, but hopefully she'll be able to find the actual one that was delivered and posted on the website of letters.
That was the actual one. That was the actual one that was delivered, yeah, to the City Council. I just wanted to add one thing, and that was that Parks and Recreation guy, the chairperson of that commission, Sergio Jimenez, had a really good editorial, one of the big fat ones, you know, not just a letter to the editor. And he had all those points that we made when we studied that issue 2 years ago, you know. So I thought that we were heard anyhow. Yes. I don't know if we influenced it, but at least we were heard. We were both at that meeting, trying to get that letter to Sergio.
Yeah, so I found it afterwards and we sent it.
Great.
Homelessness, so I went and saw Exodus from the Jungle.
Oh, yes.
And so it was shown in District 6. One of my local churches had arranged this show.
And how was it? I was going to go to that, but I have a yearly NCLE conference I have to go to for paralegals in order to keep my certificate active. And it just so happened that was the day, and it's an all-day conference.
But it'll be shown some other places, right?
But yes, it's going to be shown, and I did follow through and accept my responsibility to draft a letter. Just got my computer back after 3 weeks on late Thursday, and I sent the draft to Michelle, but it was not listed in the on the agenda. And Michelle, you were going to find out from the city attorney whether or not you could even hand out the draft.
Yeah, so we could not hand out the draft tonight because the item was not agendized. And I need to go back and look at the recording from the meeting to get more specifics on what the direction was that was given on the issue of homelessness. And then I'll coordinate with Norma before the next meeting.
Yes, I definitely know what the directive was to me, and that was to, I agreed. I actually volunteered to go on and draft a letter because I know we're getting ready for a trial next month, and I wanted to get it out of the way. But I understand, you know, those things happen, and I've got it done. But Michelle has it, and there are some issues I've got also in there as to our limited authority. I found, and Michelle and I went back and forth all day yesterday, and I ended up getting on the site for the community development site, and the site was not operating, let me tell you that. I faxed them an urgent fax. The fax was not working. But late this afternoon, when I returned home, there was a meeting, there was an email from the city saying that that has all been corrected. But one of the things, and this is okay for me to talk about since you're not passing it out, right?
No, actually, we're kind of getting off. This is Larry's report on the agenda, and this is not an agendized item. So we're kind of getting off topic.
So let me pull you back. So I was...
We can agendize it for the next meeting.
And I was trying to encourage other people to work with your district to try to show the movie. That's basically all I was
doing. Did you like it?
No, it was depressing.
Oh!
I mean, it's about the...
It's real.
Yeah, I'd seen the jungle before I knew where it was. Since I was worked on the County Freak Long Range Land Utilization Task Force, I knew the area before the homeless people moved in. It was sad to see how bad it was, but what was really sad was the city gave them notice that you were going to move out on a certain day, and they moved everybody out on that certain day, very early in the morning of that certain day, and it happened to be pouring rain, and so everybody had to tear down all their tents and move the stuff through the mud on the pouring rain in the dark, because that was the day they moved. So that is, I mean, homelessness is on many points on the homelessness. I feel very sorry for them, but to have to be moved in the mud and the dark and the rain, and that was very, just insult upon injury, I felt. But
Many of them lost their identification.
yeah, so anyhow, it's a movie to see. Then I was also going to talk about public comment on the agenda, since we had some discussion as to whether it should be at the beginning of the meeting, the commission meetings, or at the end of the commission meetings. And some groups have it at the beginning, and some have it at the end. And the rough draft of this one had the agenda at the end, and I said, no, let's put it back at the beginning at least this time. So I personally hate going to meetings where I have to sit there for 3, 4, 5 hours just to have my 1 minute to talk. So on the other hand, when you sit there for those 3, 4, 5 hours, you know if the issue's been addressed before you get up there and talk on it. But, anybody having any problem with it being at the beginning of the meetings, or do you like it at the end, or how do you?
Are you just talking about public comment?
The public comment, you know,
Something that's
The
not on the agenda.
open public comment that's at the beginning of the agenda. Many other commissions put it at the end out of respect for the members of the public who come to speak on agendized items, because the public comment section under the Brown Act can only be for the public to talk about non-agendized items. So you have a work plan and you have items on the agenda. The theory is the agendized items take precedence, and things that are non-agendized would go at the end. But it is the commission's decision, or the commission can leave it to the chair on how best to do it.
So personal experience, I know that I'm involved with a certain project that is involved with 2 different commissions that meet at the same time on the same day, but they have neither. It's not on the agenda of either one, and one has the agenda non-comment at the beginning, one the other at the end. So I go to the one, give my update, which I much appreciate. Then I go to the other meeting and sit there and wait the whole time and give the update to them, and they're happy. So it does work that way. I personally like to leave it at the beginning.
Yes, yeah, I think that's fair.
2 minutes, 1 minute.
It's 2 minutes, and it's not been
But then we
abused.
really need to just make it the time limit.
Yeah.
And there's really no question. It's supposed to be their comments to us. There's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
supposed to be a
Yeah.
public discussion.
So let's leave it at the beginning. We've not had a problem with it, so let's not change it. And that's the end of my report.